She woke up in silk sheets that weren't haze, the scent of smoke curling through the air, and a stranger's voice whispering in Korean, "Don't scream." Nia Bennett froze, her pulse pounding against her ribs. Just hours ago, she trusted her cousin, believed in a dream job offer, and now, she was staring into the eyes of Minute J. Kwon, Seoul's most feared mafia boss. But what if the man she feared most was the only one who could save her? Hey family, welcome back to another emotional roller coaster. You're about to dive into a story of betrayal, danger, and an unexpected love that breaks every rule. Before we begin, tell me in the comments, where in the world are you watching from? I love seeing our global community grow. And don't forget to hit that like button. It lets me know you're ready for more deep, powerful stories like this one. Nia Bennett's morning began with sunlight bleeding through the blinds of a tiny Seoul apartment, her coffee gone cold beside the keyboard she had been pounding on all night. She had come to Korea chasing opportunity, teaching English by day, translating documents by night, yet somehow still felt invisible. Her cousin Tasha Reed had promised her that tonight's business gala would change everything, that a powerful CEO wanted to invest in Nia's language app idea. Nia wanted to believe her. Family meant something, even when distance and ambition made it fragile. She slipped into the emerald dress Tasha bought for her, rehearsing polite phrases in Korean under her breath as she caught her reflection. Hope mixed with nerves, the eyes of a woman who had learned to survive by trusting too much. The party glittered inside the Grand Mirage Hotel, marble floors gleaming, chandeliers dripping gold. Tasha clung to her arm, smiling too wide. "Just relax," she whispered. "Chairman Seo loves confident women." Nia's stomach twisted at the name. Chairman Daekwon Seo, the billionaire whose empire touched every luxury brand in the city. He greeted them with a smile that never reached his eyes. "Miss Bennett," he purred, voice like silk hiding a knife. "Your cousin says you're talented." The air grew heavy. Nia caught the faint tremor in Tasha's hand as champagne glasses clinked nearby. Hours blurred into laughter and questions that felt too personal, too sharp. When Nia excused herself for air, she tasted something bitter in her drink, just before the lights bent and her knees gave way. Darkness folded her under. When consciousness returned, she lay on silk sheets smelling faintly of smoke and cedar. Shadows moved beyond gauzy curtains, and a low voice in Korean said, "Don't scream." Nia turned her head, heart hammering, to find a man watching her from an armchair, black suit, sleeve tattoos glinting beneath cufflinks, eyes unreadable. "Where am I?" she croaked. He rose, slow, deliberate. "Not where they meant you to be," he said. "You were delivered here by mistake." His name was Minute J. Kwon, a man whispered about in underground circles, the kind of name that made grown men step aside. He had intercepted Chairman Seo's human trafficking shipment and found Nia unconscious inside. He studied her like she was a riddle he didn't want to solve. "Who sold you?" he asked quietly. Shame and fury burned together as she whispered, "My cousin." The words fractured something inside her. Minute J's gaze flickered. For a brief second he looked almost human. "Then she's the one who belongs in a cage, not you." Nia tried to sit up, dizzy. "Why am I here? What do you want from me?" "Nothing," he said, "except the truth." He turned away, lighting a cigarette, its ember painting his profile red. Outside, rain began to tap against the windows, the city humming far below. Nia felt tears threaten but swallowed them. She had been betrayed, sold, saved by a stranger she should fear. And yet something in his calm steadied her shaking. He gestured toward the bathroom. "Clean up, eat, then we talk." His tone left no room for argument. Hours later, wearing borrowed clothes that smelled faintly of tobacco and rain, she sat across from him at a small table. "You think I'm one of them," she said. "If I did," he replied, "you'd already be gone." Silence stretched between them until Nia whispered, "Then why keep me here?" He looked at her like he was asking himself the same question. Somewhere in that silence, two broken paths had crossed, neither understanding that their collision was no accident. My dear listeners, if you discovered the person who saved you was also the most dangerous soul in the city, would you run? or stay to learn why fate put you in their hands? Tell me what you think down in the comments. And don't forget to hit that like button to help more people find this story of betrayal, danger, and maybe, just maybe, unexpected love. Nia Bennett barely slept. Every sound in the dim penthouse, creaking wood, the whisper of rain, made her flinch. Morning arrived in a haze of gray light spilling across the floor, and she realized Minute Jaquan hadn't slept either. He stood by the window, still in his black shirt, his eyes fixed on the skyline like he was trying to control it. "You don't have to be afraid," he said without looking at her. "Then why am I still here?" she whispered. He finally turned, cigarette hanging from his lips, voice low. "Because the people who bought you won't stop until I find them first." The truth struck her harder than any drug could. She remembered Tasha's laughter at the gala, remembered thinking family meant safety. Now it felt like a ghost story she had told herself to stay sane. Minute J handed her a steaming bowl of soup. "Eat," he said, "before you faint again." She wanted to protest, but her stomach growled, betraying her. "You're really not going to hurt me?" she asked quietly. He met her eyes for the first time. Steady, unflinching. "Hurting women isn't my business. Destroying men who do, that's mine." The words hung heavy in the air. Over the next few hours, she saw his world through fragments. Men in suits carrying briefcases that probably didn't hold documents, encrypted phone calls in languages she only half understood, and a constant shadow of danger that followed him like perfume. He never raised his voice, but every order carried authority that could break empires. That night, she caught her reflection in the glass, standing behind a man feared by thousands, and she didn't know if she was safer or already trapped again. When he stepped beside her, their reflections overlapped, and he said, "The man who tried to buy you, Chairman Daquan Seo, is more dangerous than you imagine. He trades in control, not affection." Nia's breath trembled. "Why tell me?" "Because he'll come looking for you," he replied. "And when he does, you'll have to decide what you believe about me." Hours later, as thunder rolled outside, Minute J's men burst in with reports. Seo's henchmen were combing the city, bribing officials, searching hotels. Nia's name was already whispered on the dark web. Panic clawed at her throat. "I can't hide forever," she said. "I'm not built for cages, Minute J." His expression softened, almost imperceptibly. "Then don't," he said. "Learn how to survive them." He took her to an underground room, a small dojo hidden behind mirrored walls. "If you can't fight fear," he told her, "then fear will always find you." She tried, failed, and tried again, until her palms stung and her arms trembled. He didn't praise her, but he didn't stop her either. By nightfall, she could feel something shifting inside, fear turning into fire. "Good," he murmured. "Now you look like someone they should be afraid of." When she smiled faintly, he looked away, almost as if her smile hurt him. Later, she found him outside under the rain, shirt clinging to his skin, staring at a faded photo he kept hidden in his wallet. "Your sister?" she asked softly. He didn't answer, just closed the photo like a wound. "Everyone I care about disappears," he said, voice almost a whisper. "Don't become another ghost, Nia." Her chest tightened at the sound of her name from his lips. It felt different, dangerous, alive. For the first time since the betrayal, she felt seen. But just as warmth began to bloom between them, the world reminded her how fragile it was. An explosion tore through the street below, a car engulfed in flames. Minute J's bodyguards rushed to the window. Seo's men, one shouted. They found the trail. Without hesitation, Minute J grabbed her wrist. "We move now." His voice left no room for debate. Sirens wailed in the distance, glass trembled, and as they ran through secret hallways leading to the garage, Nia realized this was no longer about survival. It was about trust. And the terrifying truth was that she trusted him more than she'd ever trusted anyone. As they escaped into the night, she glanced back once and saw the skyline burning, her old life reduced to ash. The safe house Minute J brought Nia to was nothing like the penthouse. It sat on the edge of the Han River, hidden behind steel gates and ivy, more fortress than home. The air smelled of metal and rain, and the silence pressed in on her like another set of walls. For 2 days she barely spoke, pacing rooms filled with security monitors and locked drawers. Every time she caught his reflection on a screen, standing, silent, calculating, she felt a strange pull of safety and suffocation all at once. When she finally confronted him, her voice was sharper than she meant. "You can't just keep me here." He didn't look away from the monitor. "You walk out now, you die. Chairman Seo doesn't forgive debts." "I'm not your prisoner," she said. "No," he replied, turning at last. "But you are my responsibility until I finish what I started." His tone left no space for argument, and yet she refused to shrink. "You don't even know me." His jaw tightened. "I know enough." They stood inches apart, storm and steel. He was everything she had learned to run from: control, danger, dominance. But beneath it she sensed something brittle. When he left the room, she searched for her phone, desperate for contact with the outside world. It was gone. Fury rose in her throat. She stormed after him into the rain-slick courtyard. "You think I'll just obey you?" she shouted. He turned slowly, water dripping from his hair, and said in a tone that was both warning and confession, "I think you want to live." The words struck like lightning. She hated that he was right. The night deepened, and so did her confusion. When he found her later in the kitchen trying to boil tea, she expected another order. Instead, he set a bandage on the counter. "You cut your hand," he murmured. She hadn't noticed the blood. His touch was careful as he wrapped it, his fingers warm despite the cold. For a moment, neither spoke. Then he said, "I checked your cousin's trail. Seo has her. He'll use her to draw you out." Naya's breath caught. "Then we have to go to the police." Minute J's expression hardened. There are no police in this game. She realized then how deep his world ran, how even justice had a price tag. Anger fled. "You're the same as him," she said. His eyes snapped to hers. "If I were, you wouldn't still be breathing." The words hung between them, sharp but not cruel. That night she couldn't sleep, torn between terror and the strange comfort of his presence. She heard him outside her door, talking softly on the phone in Korean, and caught only fragments. Her name, the word safe, and then silence. The next morning she woke to find the gate unlocked. Her chance to run. She hesitated only a second before slipping out into the fog. She made it halfway down the dirt road before headlights flared behind her. Seo's men, not Minute J's. Panic surged. She ran, heart hammering, until a black car skidded to a halt in front of her. The door swung open. "Get in," Minute J barked. She hesitated, then saw the gun in his hand, not aimed at her but at the men behind. Bullets cracked the air. He dragged her inside, engine roaring. "You really thought you could outrun them," he said between breaths. "I thought I could outrun you," she snapped back. His mouth curved, humorless. "Same mistake." They drove for miles, smoke and rain chasing them, until the city lights vanished. When the car finally stopped near an abandoned factory, he turned off the engine. "Next time you want to leave," he said quietly, "just say it." She opened her mouth to argue but saw the blood soaking his sleeve. "You're hurt." "It's nothing." "It's not nothing." She tore part of her scarf, pressing it to the wound, her hands trembling. He didn't move away. "Why did you come back for me?" she whispered. His answer was barely audible. "Because I promised myself I wouldn't lose another innocent." In that moment she saw past the walls, the man who had built a kingdom out of pain, now trying to protect her from the same darkness. The storm outside raged, and inside, so did her heart. Reflection time. Family. If someone dangerous risked everything to save you, even after you betrayed their trust, would you forgive them, or walk away forever? Minute J's mansion sat beyond the mountains outside Seoul, where the city's chaos melted into mist and pine. The road to it was narrow, twisting, and silent, guarded by men who bowed as their car approached. Naya stared out the window, numb from everything that had happened, her mind replaying gunfire and betrayal like a film she couldn't pause. When the gates closed behind them, it felt less like safety and more like another kind of prison, one made of luxury and shadows. Inside, the air smelled of rain and cedar. A caretaker named Hiren showed her to a guest room overlooking a garden, where koi fish shimmered beneath lanterns. For the first time in days, Naya was alone, yet she couldn't stop hearing his voice. Minute J was somewhere downstairs giving quiet orders, his tone calm but sharp enough to slice through steel. At dusk, she found him in a glass conservatory tending to a small bonsai tree, his sleeves rolled up, focus steady. "You know plants don't listen to orders," she said softly. He glanced up, the faintest curve at his lips. "Then they are smarter than most people." Their eyes met, a fragile truce blooming between tension and curiosity. Over the next few days, the mansion became a strange rhythm. He trained at dawn. She translated Korean news articles at his desk, learning how his world worked. Sometimes he'd pass by, correct her pronunciation, or leave tea by her elbow without a word. Other times, silence filled the halls like music. One night, thunder rolled over the mountains, and Naya found him at the piano, fingers moving gently over keys that released a haunting melody. "It was my sister's song," he said. "I play it when I need to remember who I was before all this." The pain in his voice made her chest tighten. She sat beside him, their shoulders almost touching. "She'd be proud you still remember." He looked at her, something unspoken flickering in his eyes. Memory isn't always kindness. Rain tapped against the glass, matching the rhythm of her heart. Over dinner, they spoke about small things, food, music, languages, and the walls between them thinned. She caught him almost smiling when she teased him about his English accent. "Say butter," she dared. "No," he said dryly. "You'll laugh." "I already am." And he did. Just a breath of laughter, low and real, and it startled her with warmth. But beneath that calm, danger still lurked. His men came and went with updates about Chairman Seo's movements. Tasha's name surfaced in coded reports. Each mention twisted Naya's stomach with guilt and anger. One afternoon she found Minute J in his study, staring at a map covered in red pins. "He's burning through the city looking for you," he said. "Soon he'll come for me." "Then what happens?" she asked. "Then it ends." His certainty frightened her. "You talk like you don't expect to survive it." He looked at her, eyes dark as storm water. "People like me don't get endings. We just buy time." That night she couldn't sleep. She wandered into the garden, moonlight catching on raindrops, when she heard footsteps behind her. "You shouldn't be out here," he said. "Neither should you," she whispered. For a moment they just stood there, breath visible in the cold air. "You risked everything for a woman you barely know," she said. "Why?" "Because you remind me what it's like to feel alive without needing blood to prove it." The confession hung between them, raw and unguarded. She stepped closer. "And what if I said I want to stay?" He hesitated, pain shadowing his face. "Then you'd be safer hating me." She smiled sadly. "Too late for that." Their silence said the rest. Inside, the same song played faintly again, his sister's melody, now softer, almost hopeful. For the first time since the betrayal, Naya felt her heart steady. Naya woke before dawn to the soft echo of piano keys drifting through the mansion, notes that trembled like a heartbeat. She followed the sound barefoot down the hall, stopping at the doorway to see Minute J sitting in the dim light, head bowed, a small silver locket glinting between his fingers. When he noticed her, he closed it quickly, but not before she glimpsed the faded photo inside, a girl with the same almond eyes and quiet smile. "She's beautiful," Naya said softly. His jaw clenched. "She was my sister. Unbile." He rose and placed the locket on the piano. "She was taken by Seo's men years ago. I built everything I am to find her." Naya's heart twisted. She understood now why he carried so much pain. "I'm sorry," she whispered. He shook his head. "Don't be. I failed her." Silence lingered heavy between them until she said, "You didn't fail her. The monsters did." Her courage startled him, but he said nothing. Later that morning, while cleaning up dishes in the kitchen, Naya found the same locket again, this time resting on the counter where he'd left it. She turned it over and froze. Inside, taped behind the photo, was a name she recognized, Daquan Seo. Her breath hitched. Unbile hadn't just been kidnapped. She had been one of Seo's first victims. When she confronted Minute J, his composure cracked. "That's why I intercepted his shipment," he said. "I thought I could find proof, maybe even find her alive." He looked at Naya, voice raw. "But when I opened that container, it wasn't my sister inside. It was you." The truth hit like thunder. Their fates had crossed because of one man's cruelty. Naya stepped closer. "You found me instead. Maybe that means you were meant to save someone." Before he could answer, alarms blared through the mansion. One of his men burst in. "Boss, Seo's people found us. Safe house in Gangnam's gone. They're coming here." Chaos ignited instantly. Minute J barked orders, his men scattering into defensive positions. Naya's pulse raced. "What can I do?" He tossed her a phone. "Pack your passport. Go to the basement. Mina will get you out. And you. I finished this." But Naya refused to run. When explosions shook the outer gates, she grabbed his arm. "If you stay, I stay." His eyes darkened. "You don't understand what's coming. I've lived my whole life running from people who tried to own me," she said fiercely. "I'm not running anymore." For a split second, he saw his sister's fire in her eyes, and that gave him pause. Together, they escaped through a back corridor as flames licked at the mansion walls. Smoke filled the air, heat searing their lungs. "Seo's men are cutting us off," one guard shouted. They reached the garage, gunfire echoing outside. Minute J pushed Naya behind a car and fired back, his movements precise, ruthless. A bullet grazed his shoulder, blood soaking through his shirt, but he kept fighting. When the last man fell, silence returned, broken only by their ragged breaths. Naya pressed her hands to his wound. "You're bleeding again," she said, trembling. "You keep finding ways to make me." He smiled faintly despite the pain. "You're stubborn. You taught me that." Outside, sirens wailed closer, drawing nearer. "We can't stay here," she said. "Then we run together," he replied, voice low but certain. As they stumbled into the night, the mansion burning behind them, Naya glanced back only once, watching his world collapse in firelight. "You lost everything because of me," she whispered. "No," he said, pulling her close. "Because of you, I finally found something worth losing." In that single, broken moment, the truth of their bond burned brighter than the flames devouring the home they'd shared. The rain followed them all the way to Busan, streaking down the windshield like tears the sky refused to hide. Naya and Minute J said little during the long drive, both exhausted, both too aware that their lives had just turned to ash. When they finally stopped, it was at a quiet seaside motel tucked between cliffs and the restless waves. The room smelled of salt and damp wood, a single lamp casting warm light across the floor. Minute J moved stiffly, his shoulder bandaged but still bleeding through. "You should rest," he murmured. "You've done enough," she said, helping him to the bed. "I can't rest while you look like this." He caught her wrist gently, eyes dark and soft. "Why do you care so much?" She hesitated, words tangled with emotion. "Because no one ever fought for me before, and now that someone finally has, I can't pretend it doesn't matter." For the first time since she met him, his walls cracked, not from pain, but from something far more human. He looked away, jaw tight. "Caring for me is dangerous. So is breathing," she whispered, and his silence said he understood. Later, as thunder rolled over the sea, Naya stepped onto the balcony, letting the rain soak through her hair. The ocean stretched endlessly before her, wild, alive, and free. Minute J joined her, standing just close enough that their shoulders brushed. "When I was a kid," he said quietly, "I used to think the sea could wash anything clean. Turns out, some things never leave you." She turned to face him, her voice barely audible. "Then maybe they're not meant to leave. Maybe they're meant to remind us who we are." The wind carried her words between them, fragile and real. He reached up, brushed a strand of wet hair from her cheek, and for a long heartbeat, the world held still. "You don't look afraid anymore," he said. "I'm not," she replied. "Because you're here." And then he kissed her, slow, uncertain, but full of everything they hadn't dared to say. It wasn't about desire. It was about survival, about two broken souls finding a heartbeat that matched their own. When they finally pulled apart, she rested her forehead against his. "What happens now?" "Now we stop running," he said. "Now we fight together." That night they shared stories between half-sleep and thunder, the smell of his sister's perfume, the sound of Naya's mother's laughter back home, the dreams both had buried under fear. The more they talked, the more the distance between them vanished. Sometime before dawn, Minute J took her hand and placed it on the scar along his arm. "This," he whispered, "is the price of trust." She traced the line gently. "Then trust me," she said. "Let's make sure no one else pays it." Outside, the sea roared, but inside, there was only stillness, the kind that comes after surviving a storm. They didn't know what tomorrow would bring, but for the first time, hope didn't feel like a lie. Reflection question for you, my beautiful listeners. Do you believe two broken people can truly heal each other? Or do they just learn to survive together? The morning in Busan began with the smell of coffee and sea breeze, but peace was an illusion. Naya woke to find Minute J gone, his phone vibrating on the table with a single message flashing across the screen. "We have your cousin." Her blood ran cold. The sender's name was hidden, but she didn't need to guess. It was Chairman Daquan Seo. Her heart pounded as she read the attached photo. Tasha, bruised and tied to a chair, a blindfold cutting across her face. A single line followed beneath it. "Come alone, or she dies." Naya's hands trembled. She wanted to scream, to wake Minute J and tell him, but the look in his eyes when he'd said he couldn't lose another innocent haunted her. She couldn't drag him into another death. So she wrote a note on the motel notepad, her handwriting shaking. "You saved me once. Let me save her." Leaving it on his pillow, she slipped into the dawn and called the number attached to the message. The voice on the other end was calm. "Cruel. Good girl. You have 6 hours." Meanwhile, Minute J returned to find her gone. For a heartbeat, he didn't move, just stayed at the empty bed, the note fluttering in his hand. Then the calm shattered. "No," he muttered, grabbing his gun and phone. "Not again." His men traced her phone signal to an abandoned shipping yard outside the city, one of Seo's old properties. He drove like a man possessed, the sound of her words echoing in his mind. At the same time, Naya reached the location, every instinct screaming at her to turn back. The place reeked of salt and decay, the metal containers rusted and marked with symbols she didn't understand. When the door slid open, Seo himself stepped out, perfectly dressed as always, smiling as though he were hosting a dinner. "Ah, Miss Bennett," he said smoothly. "It seems family bonds are stronger than I thought." Behind him, Tasha subbed quietly, her voice hoarse. "Naya, I didn't mean to. Please, I didn't know what he'd do." Seo silenced her with a gesture. "Always so dramatic," he said. "You should thank your cousin. Her mistake brought me exactly what I wanted." "You already had everything," Naya hissed. "Why do this?" His smile didn't falter. "Because control isn't about what you have. It's about who kneels." She took a step forward. "I'll do whatever you want. Just let her go." "Touching," he mused. "But you see, I don't believe in mercy." A gun clicked behind her. She turned, heart dropping as two guards stepped from the shadows. Before they could grab her, a sharp crack split the air, a single bullet taking one man down. Chaos erupted. Minute J's voice cut through the noise, cold and lethal. "Let her go, Seo." Gunfire exploded around them. Naya ducked as Minute J moved like a storm, precise, unstoppable. Seo grabbed Tasha, using her as a shield. "You're too late, Quan," he snarled. Minute J's eyes hardened. "You underestimate what I'll do for her." He fired once, hitting Seo's hand. The billionaire screamed, releasing Tasha. But before anyone could move, a second shot rang out from one of Seo's men, and Tasha collapsed. Naya screamed, dropping to her knees beside her cousin. "Tasha, stay with me." But the blood soaking through her dress told the truth. "I just wanted it to stop," Tasha whispered, tears mixing with rain. "I didn't know it would go this far." Then her eyes went still. Naya's world blurred. Minute J caught her before she could fall, pulling her against him as sirens wailed faintly in the distance. Sayo was gone, fled into the chaos. "It's over," he murmured, but she shook her head, voice breaking. "No, it's not. She died because of me." He held her tighter. "No, because of him. Don't let him own your pain too." But she couldn't stop shaking. All her life she believed pain had a purpose, but now it just felt hollow. Minute J pressed his forehead against hers. "I swear to you," he said, voice trembling for the first time, "I'll end this." Rain poured harder, washing the blood into the date, and for a moment it felt like even the heavens were mourning. Reflection question for you. My family. If someone you loved sacrificed everything to save the person who once betrayed you, would you forgive them? Or would that kind of loss harden your heart forever? The days after Tasha's death passed in fragments, sirens, hospital lights, and the smell of rain that never seemed to fade. Naya sat beside Minute J in a small safe house outside Daegu, her hands wrapped around a cup of untouched tea. His shoulder was still healing, stitched roughly by one of his men, but the pain in his eyes had nothing to do with the wound. "She didn't deserve to die like that," Naya whispered. "None of us did," he said quietly. "Sayo takes everything good and turns it into ashes. But not this time." She turned to him. "You're still bleeding, and you're planning revenge." "I'm planning freedom," he replied. "For both of us." She looked away, tears blurring her vision. "I'm tired of fighting." He reached out, taking her trembling hands in his. "Then let me fight for you." But she shook her head. "No, you taught me to fight. Remember? I'm not running anymore." The fire in her voice pulled a faint smile from him, weary but real. For a moment they sat in silence, the world outside muffled by the storm. Then Minute J said softly, "When this ends, you need to leave Korea. Start over, somewhere far from this." "And leave you?" she asked. "Yes," he said, voice breaking on the single word. "If you stay, Sayo will never stop hunting you." She leaned closer. "If I leave, who makes sure you don't stop breathing?" His laugh was rough, hollow. "You think you can protect me now?" "Maybe not," she said, "but I can stand beside you." That was a moment his resolve cracked completely. He reached up and brushed her tears away, his thumb lingering against her cheek. "You gave me back my life," she whispered, the words trembling in the air. He swallowed hard, his own voice barely audible. "And you reminded me what it means to be human." Their hands found each other, fingers lacing together like a promise they both knew might be their last. Outside, lightning split the horizon, and for a heartbeat the room glowed with white fire. "He'll come soon," Minute J said. "Then let him," Naya replied. "We'll end this together." He looked at her for a long moment, then pulled her into his arms. There were no grand declarations, only quiet understanding, the kind that didn't need to be spoken to be real. The storm outside calmed just enough to let the sound of jazz drift from a nearby radio, the same melody that had once played in the room where they first met. It filled the silence like a memory come full circle. They swayed slowly, her head resting against his chest, their heartbeats sinking to the rhythm. "If we survive this," he murmured, "promise me you'll live, no matter what happens." She nodded. "Only if you promise the same." He didn't answer, just pressed a kiss to her hair, as if sealing a vow he knew he might not keep. The night stretched long and fragile, but in its quiet, love finally found its voice, not in passion, but in peace. Months later, the world had changed. The storm was over, but its echoes still whispered through the streets of Seoul. Naya Bennett stood outside her new office building, a small but thriving translation agency nestled between cafes and flower shops. The gold sign on the door read Bennett Language Solutions, and below it, in tiny letters, in partnership with Kwon Global Enterprises. It was quiet acknowledgement of the man who had made her second chance possible. Inside, her employees chatted in soft Korean and English, their laughter filling the space that had once only known silence. She was no longer the girl who had arrived in Seoul with hope and fear tangled together. She was something else now, steady, scarred, but unbroken. That afternoon, a sleek black car pulled up to the curb. She didn't need to see who it was. She felt him before she saw him. Minute J. Kwon stepped out, no longer in the tailored suits of a mafia boss, but in a simple coat, eyes calm for the first time in years. "You're early," she said, smiling softly. "You look happy," he replied. "I am," she said, then added with a teasing tilt, "and busy." "Good," he said. "Busy means alive." They drove in silence through the glowing city until they reached the quiet cemetery on the outskirts. Together, they walked to a marble headstone marked with the name Unbile Kwon. The air was cool, the wind gentle. Naya knelt and placed a small silver locket on the grave, the one that had once bound Minute J to his past. "She'd be proud of you," Naya whispered. He looked down, voice low. "You gave me back the part of me that could feel proud again." For a long time they stood there, hand in hand, watching the clouds drift over the skyline. The city lights shimmered in the distance, reflections of everything they'd survived. "What happens now?" she asked quietly. Minute J looked at her, his gaze steady. "Now we live," he said. "No more running. No more ghosts." She smiled, eyes glistening. "Together." "Always," he promised. As they walked back toward the car, the neon lights of Seoul painted their path in hues of gold and blue. The same melody that had once played in a room filled with fear now drifted from a street musician nearby. Soft, tender, free. Naya leaned her head on his shoulder, feeling the steady rhythm of his heartbeat, the sound that had carried her through fire and loss. "Do you ever think about destiny?" she asked. "Every day," he said. "But I think love rewrote mine." She smiled through tears, whispering, "Then maybe it rewrote mine too." They drove away from the cemetery, the city stretching out before them like a promise of peace. Somewhere deep inside her, the pain still lingered, but it no longer defined her. She had found strength in survival, and love in the most unexpected place.